Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Android Talks Enterprise. And this time we have a very special guest, and I'm super excited to talk more about Android Enterprise with this person. Introducing the one and only Mr. Ben Cowell. Ben, how are you doing?
I'm really well. I think the intro is a bit too kind, but I'll take it.
Take it, mate. Take it. Before we do get into this, let's talk to people. Who are you, and what do you do, Ben?
My name is Ben Cowell. I'm an account director working for Renovotec, who are in the managed service provider space in Android. We look after clients across multiple verticals and effectively help them use mobility to drive their business objectives. For me personally, I lead the client relationships, helping them choose the right hardware, software, services, and effectively be part of a conduit into the wider Renovotec business.
And how would you say, as a whole, Android Enterprise has changed the way your business works?
It's a really good question. So I think a lot of ways. I think the big one for us is probably the Android Enterprise Recommended Program. That sort of really laid out a clear blueprint of what good looks like from a managed service partner point of view, EMM, and also hardware perspective. That really acts as our go-to resource now. That sort of allows us to confidently recommend best in breed solutions, etc. Our whole pitch is around getting the customer the right hardware, the right EMM, and then also right sizing our services around that.
I think having that short list of devices and service providers that meet that Google enterprise requirement, I think for people working within the enterprise field, and not just that, the end user, it does allow for that seal of approval. It's just seamless, right?
Yeah, it's an awful lot easier than it was before, right? But now having that a bit more formalized and having a good resource to go to has always been really helpful. So that's something we use a lot.
Absolutely. And we've talked on the positives here, but what have you found as the biggest challenge that you're facing in your role, your business, a project right now? And are there any examples of how Android Enterprise has supported you in overcoming them?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we're in quite a strange position in the fact that in our industry, we're still supporting a lot of people who are on Windows Mobile or Windows CE, which obviously was end supported by the guys at Microsoft many moons ago. Trying to move those over in the early days of Android was always a bit of a challenge. Windows at the time was a bit of a market leader. Android for work was pretty embryonic, and some of the features just weren't available. But we've obviously seen Android 6 and 7 and much beyond that, opening up a bit of a range of config options. So we've had zero touch launch. There's massive amount of improvements of what the EMMs can now utilize to make things better for our customers. I think we're still in the education mode for some of the, I guess, laggard customers. But there's a bunch of customers that get it. They're familiar with Android. They're using it for their own personal devices. And they want to have that kind of like personal experience in the workplace, which is why we're a big Android fan here.
Apologize for the pun, but could you touch a little bit more on zero touch and how beneficial that has been for you and the team?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a game changer, really. I think one of the pieces that we always wanted to make sure that, regardless of how much control that you've got over the device, if it was ever to be factory reset, actually breaking that back out into a factory fresh state is a bit of a problem. You lose all sorts of control. The IT policies that you may have set or mandated through an EMM all of a sudden evaporate because you have this factory fresh device. But enforcing that security element of always making sure that it gets re-enrolled back into that EMM, and making sure that the security policies are always going to stand. You've got the right apps for the right people on the basis of the user groups, etc. Is absolutely huge. But yeah, zero touch has been big. Versus configuring devices manually.
Yeah.
It's a huge time saving for us and the customers.
I can imagine. And on a more of a personal level for you, what would you say is your go-to Android Enterprise feature, that one that just like really stands out for you?
Yeah, that's a tough one. So firstly, like work profile on company-owned devices is amazing. The fact that we can have this like dual persona device and end users can choose to balance between having privacy, what's also giving IT control of the devices. I think, that's a real key differentiator for Android. I mean, we have questions or queries that come in through a help desk, on a weekly basis, asking, where is the work profile on other operating systems? And we have to go back and say, look, that's not a feature that exists.
Before we wrap things up, Ben, if you could give one tip to a partner with all the experience you have when it comes to Android Enterprise, who's getting started within this field, what would it be?
Yeah, I think that, simplest, come in, join us. The partner community is great, really helpful. And, there's a huge amount of knowledgeable people in this space that are part of the community already. One of the pieces that we looked at when we were getting started on our journey was the partner discussion forum, which was really helpful. Effectively, there's no silly questions that you can ask. And people out there, they've already seen the problems, they've already dealt with it, and they've already got the answers. So yeah,